So how do you go about accepting the fact that you're not perfect?
What happened to the Welcome to the Workshop Therapy podcast bit?
I'm your host, Andrew.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
Joining me today is my wife as my co-host.
It's been a really long week, okay? I just finished writing report cards.
And were they perfect?
Of course. No, probably not. I don't know. I'll find out when the principal gets back to me.
I think kind of a natural carry on from our last few conversations about burnout.
This feels like really like we didn't start this properly. I'm going to obsess over it till it's done right. I'm sorry, I can't.
Do you want to do it then?
No, it's really bothering me. It's not right if I do it.
Welcome to the Workshop Therapy podcast. I'm your host, Andrew, and joining me today is my wife, Tamara, as my co-host. There, is that better?
That's better, thank you. I think I can go on from here.
Now that it's perfect?
No, it's just routines are important to some people and not others. Continue.
So,
In your wildness.
I'm a free spirit. Leave me alone.
You are a free spirit. Continue.
This is really quite a difference now versus, when we were first married or when we first met each other. I would have said that you were probably the wild child, prone to throwing yourself into situations without any forethought. But now that we've been married a few years...
I give a very false impression off the bat then.
You do. I don't know, what was your impression of me when you first met me? I mean, aside from being stunningly visually handsome.
Oh yes, stunningly visually handsome. That was my first impression.
It's hurtful that you didn't just immediately agree to that.
you were my friend's boyfriend. Didn't immediately look at you and go, "Oh my goodness, I am not that girl."
Apparently you were.
I was not.
You married your friend's boyfriend.
5 years later after you broke up. Okay, 4 years after you broke up. Still, it was a while. Moving on. This makes me look bad. I don't like this. I don't like the way this conversation is going today. Free spirit. I wouldn't have called you a free spirit. I knew you thrived in more chaos than I did.
Lived in more chaos. Maybe not thrived.
No, well, and I'm not like a first impression and that's it person. Like I take a lot of pictures of people in my head and put them together to make my opinion. So it takes a while. So I would say like I remember our first Christmas time that we spent as friends when I was helping you do your Christmas shopping because your girlfriend didn't want to. And so I don't even know if you remember this. Do you remember this? Do you remember going Christmas shopping together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember my girlfriend not wanting to.
Yeah, she didn't want to go with you, so I did. Yeah.
Maybe that's why we broke up.
Okay. I don't know. Anyway, I remember we were shopping for a gift for your mom, and I was asking you questions like, well, what does your mom like to do? What are her hobbies? What do you say? And you're like, she doesn't have any. She doesn't do anything. I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, how do you not know what your mom would like? Like, and just thinking that you were chaotic, and it frustrated me. There was like a lack of clear defined, this is what I'm getting this person, this is what I'm getting this person. That is still a problem. I wonder if that'll pick up.
Yeah, probably not. And if it does, it'll probably get washed out in the editing process.
Yeah.
For those of you who are wondering, there's coyotes howling outside. Maybe I should find some coyote sounds and just edit it in.
And it's like +2 Celsius still, so the window's open.
Yeah, it's nice. Anyway,
no, I would have said you were like more chaos than me.
Well, I just assumed that you'd be like a free spirit hippie because you were from BC.
Yeah, I know.
For context to the American listeners,
BC is like California.
No, BC is not like California. BC is like Seattle.
Yeah.
And Portland.
I was gonna say Oregon. Very similar.
Portland, not Oregon.
Yeah, parts of it. BC is large. It's not all. You are very generalizing this. All of BC is not like Portland.
True. Anywhere where there's a population more than a few thousand people is like Portland.
Goodness.
But anyway,
this has gotten really rambly about weirdness again.
It's a good thing we're not going for perfection here. Back to the original question.
Yes, originally I would have said that you were much more chaotic than me, just in like what you ate and how you dressed and your car.
What car? When we
It's
first
the
met,
lack of car.
I didn't have a car.
I know, lack of.
I had
That's chaos to me. You had no car. You had no plan. You crashed your bike. I don't thrive in that.
you act like I planned crashing my bike.
You did. You were driving too fast and you knew that.
No, I went around a corner and there was gravel spread across the pavement.
Too fast. See, yeah. But you didn't have a backup plan for your bike.
I lived 2 blocks from the university. My backup plan was walk to university instead of ride my bike.
Yeah. Chaos.
So speaking of perfectionism, kind of carrying on from our past few conversations,
I feel like this conversation has just turned into Tamara's problems.
no,
You have a perfectionism problem when it comes to woodworking and things like that. You get like stuck in a perfectionism cycle and it halts you or building our house.
I wasn't pointing fingers at anybody.
Uh-huh.
You just pointed a finger at me.
Yeah, I know.
I wasn't pointing a finger at you.
That means there's 4 pointing back at myself.
Yeah, there we go. No, what I was going to say, Joe, let me continue.
No,
Carrying on,
scared of what you're gonna say.
carrying on from our previous conversations about burnout, I think perfectionism can be a major cause of burnout because I put out a reel a couple days ago about this.
I watched it.
I know you liked it too. I was impressed.
Mhm.
So this horrible shelf that we're looking at here at the foot of our bed, made of nailed together 2x10s.
It's lovely.
I didn't even take a picture of it because I'm so ashamed of it.
I don't mind it.
Well, I'm ashamed of it because it's literally nailed together 2x10s, but it is 100% functional.
Mhm.
Like it completely
It does the
fills the
job.
purpose, and it took me 20 minutes, maybe, to make.
I don't know. I was just irritated.
What? That I left to work on the house, or that I came back with a shelf?
No, just times it's hard when I get home from dealing with other people's children all day to deal with my own.
Well, you can go out and work on the house.
No, I cannot.
Anyway, you're distracting me again. This is going to be another rambly episode. So yes, I struggle with wanting to do everything perfectly, and sometimes 5% effort or 10% effort is all that's really needed to accomplish the task. Watched a video, maybe you shared it with me, about how people with neurodivergence have a hard time understanding that normal people, when they say give it all, give it your
Yes,
all.
I did.
Yeah, normal people, when they say give it your all, are actually meaning
60%.
60% and have some sort of reserve for doing the other things that they need to do during the day. Whereas neurodivergent people,
It literally mean give it your all.
yeah,
Like everything, like 100. And for me, it's more than my all.
yeah, because you're giving 100% of everything to every task, which
Yep.
means you get burnt out because you just literally can't.
And when you're high functioning, which is not like the best term to use, but it's what most people use. So I'm going to use that colloquial terminology. When you're high functioning,
When you're almost normal, but not. Is that better?
yeah, sure. When you're high functioning and you're giving 110% and the normal person's giving 60, you feel good about yourself. You're like, yes, look at that. I totally like blew them out of the water. I did this thing. And your boss is like, oh, this is awesome. And this is amazing. And I'll get, you see it a lot in creative people, right? Like my first year teaching, um, it was Christmas concert time and I was teaching kindergarten. And instead of doing like just the little nativity like we normally did, I had to do the nativity and the full 12 days of Christmas and make all the costumes for all the kids to wear. And that hasn't stopped. That's still a problem for me every year. But I don't do it in a like I need to be better than teacher A or B. I do it in like I need to do this to make this the best Christmas for these kids, for them to remember this and to make these core memories and whatever. But then it becomes an expectation from other people as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, "Oh, well, she can do this, and let's give her more because she's able to do that." And what I didn't understand is when they're giving me more, they're thinking I'm only at 60%, and so I can give her a little bit more, and that's okay. When I'm already at 110 and you're giving me more, I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been, like, a hard
Except then you still try to push yourself to do it because everybody
I
has the
do.
expectation you want to fulfill
Yeah,
the
and you don't wanna
expectation.
disappoint anybody, or you think they're not gonna like you, and you have a hard time dealing with friendships and everything in the first place, so you wanna make sure you're doing your best all the time, and then it leads to autoimmune disorders, right? And things that are really hard to deal with, and I think, and on that too, you get, like, different sides of the spectrum, literally, when you have, like, the ADHD that I struggle with like our son does, but his awe part is maybe a little stronger than mine is, and so he just doesn't care. Like, if you're asking him to do something and he doesn't wanna give his intent to it, he's not going to.
Hope.
It does not matter how you sugarcoat it, bribe it. Nope.
Yeah, just not interested in doing it, so he's not
Um,
going to do it.
yeah, unless it somehow is connected to something of his area of interest. It's just not gonna happen. And I think, like, my one of my coping mechanisms is people pleasing, and so that's too strong for me. And it's something that I work on, and in people pleasing, I feel like I have to be perfect.
Yeah, and to kind of bring it back to more creative pursuits.
Yeah.
The thing the thing about perfectionism is, let's take this shelf here for an example,
You're
right?
obsessed with this shelf.
Well, it's a good metaphor, and this is kind of what I was thinking about. Like, what do you think of the shelf? You said you like it.
Yeah. Well, I like it better than the ones at Walmart. At least it's wood.
Yeah.
Like, it's not peeling. It's not melamine. It doesn't have a stinky off gas smell, so I'm perfectly happy with it.
So you're happy with that,
Yep.
even though you recognize that I can and have done better things than that,
Yep.
right? Like like that is a 10% effort shelf
Mhm.
for me. I don't even know if that's a 10% effort shelf. I mean, I didn't even sand anything,
It's
but
low effort.
it's very low effort. But it's 100% functional.
Yeah, it
And
fixed the
and
problem that's been a problem for months and
yeah,
was helpful.
and so I've been in my mind, I've been wanting to build something for here for a while, but I have this always want to do better than the last thing I made
Yeah.
problem. And so in order to be better than the last thing I made, I mean, compared to a harp, that shelf is absolute crap. But but um the perfectionism in me made me not want to do something like that because I can do better, and I can do much better than that particular shelf. But there's oftentimes when other people look at the same thing and may not even see the flaws, or maybe, something that simple could be beyond somebody else's skill level.
Yeah, I think I think in many ways too, we get caught up in like what you're saying, like it is a perfectly fine shelf. Is it the best thing you ever built? No, but it doesn't. It's not like falling down looks better than the manger that the kids built at Christmas time. Like it's still
Oh,
still
thanks.
square. It's still holding books. Like it's not falling apart. It's fine. But I was thinking because woodworking is obviously not my thing. I was thinking about an experience that I had that has shaped a lot of my life, and although, like, I do definitely struggle with perfectionism, I also know, um, that beauty can be found in imperfections, and I have a couple. Number 1 was, um, I was in high school, I was doing music festival, and I was playing a song, it was memorized, it's on piano, I'm playing away, and all of a sudden, I couldn't remember it anymore, and I had to get up, and I had to ask for my music, and I had to go back and play it, and I wanted the floor to eat me up, and I felt absolutely sick, and I couldn't imagine, um, how I was ever gonna face the adjudicator afterwards or any of that. Like, I just felt like complete shame and overwhelm, and it was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and this was a song I'd practiced for months. I could play backwards and forwards, and I just froze. And I remember walking out, and I remember my mom coming and getting me and saying, "You need to go back in and just hear what she has to say," and I did not wanna go back in. Like, I wanted to vomit and run away. And I went back in. I don't honestly remember what she said overall. I remember her giving me some tips of, like, "Don't look at your hands because 'cause that'll trick you out, and get out of your own head and start thinking about something else. Don't, like, focus on it too much when you're up there." So, I remember a few tips. And then, I don't know how many years later, um, when we were in living in BC, I ended up getting, a job teaching band at my old elementary school, and it was music festival time, and I took my kids to music festival and took my kids. So I was teaching band at 5 elementary schools in the area, and I took all of them to music festival.
So you had like 200 and
I
something
have, like,
kids in there.
250 something kids, and there's no, like, cap on band teachers, how many kids they can have, so it was, like, me and a couple EAs. It was chaos. Like, I was the only teacher there, and I'm trying to keep all these kids quiet while each group plays, right? Anyway, whatever. We made it through, and it was great. But, when I got up there and I hadn't looked at who the adjudicators were beforehand. I'd helped with festival organizing and stuff, but I hadn't really paid attention to adjudicators. Or maybe I hadn't, but I didn't recognize her name, and when I walked up onto the stage and turned around, it was that adjudicator from that I had bombed in front of, and I just, like, the floor fell out from underneath me, and I was like, "How am I ever gonna" she's gonna think, "Oh my goodness, this kid who, like, bombed it 10 years ago is gonna come and show me." Anyway,
So you froze up and ran out of the room.
I didn't. I was like I was with, like, I had to be on, and so I put on my performer face, and we went and we did it. And, I debated back and forth because I had lots of groups there, and then I had private students as well later that she was adjudicating, um, and I also had to take her between venues because she'd flown into our area. And, I remember talking to her and I just said, "Hey, like, you probably don't remember this at all. Like, it's vivid in my mind. I played for you when I was in high school and I froze up and I just, like, I've replayed that in my head over and over and over and over again." She's like, "Honestly, I don't remember you. I adjudicate tons of places every year. Like, it's not," she's like, "I don't remember." She's like, "What I remember about all of those kids is the ones who go back to it are generally the ones who stick with it later." So, like, if the kid doesn't come back, they probably never will.
Mhm. It's like the whole get back on the
It
bicycle
is. It's
or
the same kind of thing. And so I find myself often getting in the way, feeling like this has to be perfect and this has to be done. And um and that will come to my mind and I will have that like, "Oh yeah, remember, like, I screwed it up bad, really bad, but I did get back on and I did." And I mean, I became a professional musician. So it's not like, and it's not that I'm perfect, and I still struggle with stage fright and I hate playing in front of big groups of people. It is not my thing. But I'm grateful for that experience. And today I was getting report cards done. Um 2 days ago I was stressing out about it and I didn't, because it's a different template than I've used before. This is a new school year, blah 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 blah. I was freaking out, and instead of getting stuck in that perfection cycle, I called my dad and was like, "Hey dad, can I FaceTime you and show you what I'm struggling with on this report card?" Because my dad taught for 40 years and I did. And he was like, "Oh, no, I think this is what you need to be doing instead. Simplify it and don't expect it to, you're not going to be able to report on everything." And that changed it for me to where 2 days later I finished my report cards and handed them in a week early. Instead of 10 years ago, my perfectionist cycle would have been to continue. You're looking like, uh-huh. I would have agonized over every report card marked and checked everything a zillion times and made sure, and I still struggle with that on many things. But, um, you have experiences like that that do change you and do help you to move forward. And I'm trying desperately to retrain those patterns in my brain so I can do things like hand in my report cards early because I'm not agonizing over them. And if she comes back and says, "Hey, you forgot a comma here, or you missed this," I'm not going to be upset by that. That doesn't make me a bad person.
So then how do you go from perfectionist to embracing the imperfection then? Maybe not embracing, but accepting the imperfection. Like
You
what if
cry a
it
lot.
oh, well there you have it, folks.
That's my coping strategy. Tears.
Have a
I don't
crying
know.
corner.
Like it's been many years. And I'm not very good at lots of things, and I really like things to be perfect. And I mean, it goes to lots of areas of my life, and it does cause burnout, and it causes stress and anxiety for me and everyone else, and I know that. And your as does your perfectionism cause stress and anxiety for not just you, but other people.
Or doesn't.
Yep. Anyway, I think I think for me, it's that starting to change that dialogue in your head, right? The self-talk.
Mhm.
I I'm trying to not say words like, "It's not good enough. I can't. This is too much. This is too hard." I'm trying to change it to, maybe I don't have to do all of it. What parts are most important, right? So that's for me where I'm going, is because I wanna take on that whole 110%, and it's a very steep learning curve trying to figure out how to change that and understand that 60% can be enough because that is allowing myself 40% for growth. Instead of, my previous mindset would have been 60% is a barely pass and 40% is a complete failure. Like that 40, that it's just wasted failing percentage.
So then you get trapped into that. Well, if I'm going to fail, there's no point in doing it, and then that
Yeah.
triggers that procrastination cycle because you know you're not going to be 100% successful at it, and so then you avoid doing it, and then you just don't do anything.
Yeah.
Is one potential outcome, and I'm not saying that you do that.
No, but it does start that spiral. And I see it in kids at school too, and the fear of failure is so strong. But I think that that's what I'm trying to do right now, and I've thought about this because you actually gave me at least this t from this morning to think about it, is that I am trying to recognize, and I'm glad you brought up that video, because I am trying to recognize that 60% can be enough of my effort, and not looking at the 40% as, "I could have done more, I could have done better, this would have been perfect had I done this." Instead, looking at that 40% of, as for me, this is my perspective shift, is to go from 60% is where I'm at it now in this, giving it a this percentage. That extra 40% is my time or my ability to look at it, reflect, and see where I could have improved in the future. Streamline the process, whatever, so I can still give not all of my energy, not spend all of it on that, but still learn and grow from it,
Uh,
instead of looking at that 40% as a loss.
yeah. Well, and one of the things I was thinking of is with our episode a couple episodes ago when we talked about self care versus self indulgence,
Mhm.
and if you look at we keep using 100% effort, right? Like if we look at your day and say you have 100% of your day and you have some sort of task, whether it's your job or a creative pursuit or something, that's not 100% of your day, right? There's other things you have to do. You have to eat, you have to sleep, you have to wash your dishes, you have to do your self-care routines, whether that's exercising or meditating or relaxing, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
You have all of these different things that you have to do in a day in order to maintain some sort of balance and healthy life.
Yeah.
But so if you put 100% of your effort into a task, you're by default you're taking away your ability to put effort into other things that need to be done.
Yep.
And so then you trigger a you trigger a spiral in those things too, which then
Yeah.
creates burnout and stress and anxiety around all of these other tasks too. And so kind of the takeaway to that is almost that you need to not put 100% of your effort into everything because number one, it's impossible. Number two, you have to have some sort of reserve in order to accomplish all of the other things you need to do in a day.
Oh, I was just thinking, um, how many failed relationships are caused because at the start you give 110% to the relationship, realize you can't, you burn out, you drop down to that 60%, and then it's not enough for that person who was expecting that 100, right? And then you become resentful, and it spirals into, and I'm not just talking like romantic relationships, I'm talking like parenthood. When you have that new baby and you're like 110% in and you're doing everything, and when they're 14 and you're still having to do a lot of things you didn't think you'd still have to be doing,
Wearing.
you burn out, especially if you're a parent of a kid with special needs or neurodivergence or anything like that, right? Like you're burnt and you snap when you don't want to. And I mean, this is for me right now, just thinking through this because I didn't think about this aspect of it is our lack of community, our lack of support, a lack of respite that parents 50 years ago had is causing stress and burnout as well, in that I feel like we need to present a perfect front too,
Yeah.
right? And so you
Yeah. There's
can't.
this societal expectation now where, 40 years ago it was okay to send your kid outside and ignore them for all day long.
Yeah, or whack 'em
But
with a stick when they were bad. You're not like, and I'm not promoting spanking or hitting or anything because you should not do that, and that is bad, and I do not agree with it. But we've switched to this environment that none of us are used to or understand, and it requires so much of you, and you're supposed to be perfect at it, and you're supposed to be giving your all at work and your all at home and all of these things, and you can't.
yeah, and if you take up a hobby, you should be turning it into a side hustle
And you should be perfect at it.
and you should be perfect at it and
Yeah, and making money and doing all these things, and so then you're just in, like, a spiral of shame and self-doubt, and it just who ultimately lands up taking the brunt of it is your family and your relationships.
Mhm. So maybe that's why we have a successful marriage is because I only gave like 5% to our relationship when we first met.
Are you serious?
Well, I don't know, I'm just saying that that's it. I never quantified it. Would you say that I was 100% friend when we first met?
I thought we hit it off and we're good friends right away.
Yeah, but it's not like I was going out of my way to try to win you as a friend. And I know I don't go out of my way
No,
to
it's true, I
anybody
just
to.
accepted your rudeness.
Yeah, see, that's why our relationship is good. Is because I didn't put a false
Because
front.
I expect nothing. My expectations are very low because we were friends before for 5 years before we got together romantically, so I knew what I was getting into.
See, that's good. That's good advice right there. Set the bar as low as possible, and then there's always
Oh
anything
my
above the
goodness.
bar then is a surprise. Set the bar below your abilities, far below your abilities.
I'm not even gonna justify this with no. No. Just no. I mean, I think there is something in that, in the, like, don't set it so high either, like, because there is that, like, initial honeymoon phase of things. I don't feel like we had I never felt like we had the honeymoon phase as much as many of my friends who hadn't been friends before they dated and got married had. Like, it felt like it wore off a lot faster for them.
What do you mean wore off
Well,
faster?
like, there
They
was the
had
honeymoon phase was more intense for them where they were, like, dropped all their friends and were like, "Yay, we're in love and everything's wonderful and we don't need anybody else," and, like, and then very soon it was like, "I'm so frustrated by these things he did and doesn't do anymore," and I don't feel like I was
I didn't realize he'd locked the food cupboard.
don't um, I don't feel like we had that same in our relationship because I kinda like, we've been friends for a long time. You knew I was terrible at taking the garbage out before you ever married me, so
It's true.
that wasn't a surprise.
Nope.
Yeah. So I think there's things like that that make difference, but I'm yeah, I think perfectionism in your in your job, in your hobby, um, in your woodworking, in your art, whatever it is, causes carryover to problems in your relationships and problems in your mental health.
Yeah. One of the things that I was going to kind of bring up in conjunction with this accepting imperfection is the Japanese concept, or the Zen Buddhist concept, of wabi-sabi. Have you heard that before?
Only like the bazillion and one times you've told me about it. Yes. And the picture frame, do you remember that we broke and we fixed? And
I fixed. Great.
because I cried.
Yeah, and so I fixed it.
Yeah.
So wabi-sabi is the for those of you who don't know, is a Japanese aesthetic and philosophical concept that kind of embraces imperfection, impermanence, and natural simplicity. And so, yeah, a good example is like the broken picture frame that you then highlight the imperfections in the repair process,
Yeah, you know,
or broken pottery, or
you let the cracks and fractures be seen.
yeah. And so wabi, I'm probably saying this wrong. So if we have any Japanese listeners, please record the correct pronunciations and send it in,
Yes.
and we'll play it and feel chastised. But wabi is
No, we will feel like we learned and grew and are grateful to have an experience where somebody is teaching us.
there you go. That's how you accept imperfection.
See?
So wabi,
I'm working on this in therapy.
simplicity, humility, and an appreciation for the beauty of natural imperfections. And sabi is the beauty that comes with the passage of time. So worn, aged, or patina.
Hmm.
That's the two breakdowns.
Interesting.
But you see a lot of that in like the Zen Buddhist thing. So in my undergrad, um, I took a couple courses, world religion courses, and one of the things that we talked about in was like Zen Buddhism and Shintoism and things like that, with Japanese religions, which I found interesting. And lots of the philosophical underpinning of Japanese artistry and craftsmanship has to do with that, embracing the imperfection of things. Uh, I'm drawing a blank on those little trees now. What do they call them?
Bonsai.
Bonsai trees. Oh, I couldn't remember the name. But if you look at bonsai trees for an
No, but I wanted to say Gonzo caused them bonsai.
why?
I don't know. Because that's how because I think there must have been a Sesame Street episode or something. But not Sesame Street,
Muppets.
Muppets episode where there was a bonsai tree and Gonzo talked about it. Anyway.
Okay. Anyway,
Sorry.
bonsai trees. If you look at them, you'll never, or well, I don't say you'll never, but you very very rarely see any of them that are symmetrical.
Yeah.
They're always asymmetric, and I think that contributes to their natural look and their beauty and that type of stuff. And so there is place for imperfection, and maybe even like the perfection of imperfection.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one of my internet acquaintances, internet friends, Michael Dorn. He's a violin maker, and or a luthier. Was it last year he finished this violin, and he's like one of those ultimate craftsmen, won awards type of people, and he finished this violin, and the finish is perfect, and then in order to improve it, he then started the distressing
Yeah.
process, right? So it looks better after it's no longer perfect.
Uh-huh.
And that's where like violins in particular, we went violin shopping for
Our daughter.
our daughter last weekend. It's interesting that you look at these used violins, and it's almost like the ones you're most drawn to are the ones that obviously have been used.
Yeah.
like they feel, they look like they tell a story. They look like
Yeah.
they've been used. And coming back to this shelf here,
Oh, good. Back to the show.
back to the shelf. We're bringing it around in full circle as a
Circle back.
conclusion, right?
Yep.
Bringing it back to the shelf. Maybe that's one of the things that is better about this shelf versus the crap from Walmart, aside from its crap from Walmart. Is that stuff, it's very, right?
Yeah. Oh,
But when it starts to wear,
2 seconds later.
2 seconds later, it looks like garbage.
Yeah.
Whereas,
This can get beaten up and nobody will notice.
no, because it started off as
You
garbage and
can't
sort of,
tell.
yeah. So it's important to embrace the perfection of imperfection, and to remember that your journey.
Your 60% is enough to allow you 40% growth. It's not that you're giving only 60% and losing 40%.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I was going to kind of wrap up with is remember that it's about progress, not perfection, right? Because you're never going to be perfect. There's always going to be mistakes.
And somebody's always going to be better than you.
So yeah,
On that bombshell,
on that bombshell, we are on episode 82.
that's a lot of us talking.
Well, it's not just us.
It's true.
There's guests.
You have had much better and more interesting guests than me.
No, you keep saying that, but I get more feedback about you than I do anything else. People like you.
It's
I like you. It's no wonder.
because I'm a crazy person.
That makes you entertaining.
I'm also working on not talking negatively to myself. That's not going as well.
Yes.
That's a different burnout problem.
Anyway, so one of the things that I was thinking we should do, as like, since we're
I'm not reading the weird thing that you read.
getting burnt out from that, honestly, it's actually quite hard to do, because yeah, but I'm always open for suggestions on that. So please send in suggestions. But no, that's not what I was thinking. I was thinking for episode 100. So this is, quite a few episodes in the future still, but people can start thinking about this, and they can even start sending in things now. For episode 100, I would love to get some feedback from people, like things that they've learned or things that they've felt have helped them, all those sorts of things that they would care to share. And you could send those to questions at workshoptherapypodcast.com, and we'll put them into the show. And, you can talk about perfection or burnout or, anxiety or whatever. If there's anything that has struck you, I know I get feedback from people just about every episode that, they say, hey, this one hit me, or this part of this one I enjoyed, or whatever it is. If you could, record a voice memo on your phone and email it to us at questions@workshoptherapypodcast.com, that would be great. I'll remind you a few times in the future here. But yeah, you have anything else to say?
Nope, I'm burnt out.
Thank you for listening, everybody. And if you would care to support the show on Patreon, it really does make a massive difference, and it does help us keep going. If you have any questions, thoughts, comments, requests for information about a specific topic, whether it's mental health related or education related or musically related, or just a random question that you want to try to stump us with, send it to questions@workshoptherapypodcast.com. And with that, do you want to say goodbye?
Have a great week.
And now for the Founding Father thank you. Hearken ye ears, and heed well my harrowing howl, for 6 stalwart supporters stand, stubbornly stoking the sparks of this show. From far-flung forges, fearsome and fierce, their famed fingers fashion and flow. Matthew from Arciano Serio, master of meticulous making, molding with might, his marvelous mind forever finessing, forsaking the fake. Brad of Brad's customs, bold in his brilliant blueprinting, bending, burning, and building beyond the bounds of the boredom banal. Keith of Blackthorn Concepts, a craftsman cold and calculating, carving, creating, and conquering all calamitous challenges callously cast his way. Eric of Overall Makerworks, eternally engineering, ever endeavoring, an artisan of audacity, and alchemist of all things assembled and alloyed. Brandon of Tectonic Creations, a titan of tenacity, twisting, turning, and taming tall timbers till tales of his trades tremble through time. And then, of course, there's the Grant Alexander, because apparently he doesn't need a title, just the. Like some kind of legendary lumberjack looming large over the land, leading lost lads to limitless levels of lathe-laden lore. So there's your tribute, you tenacious tinkerers, you titanic tool wielders. And if you, dear listener, dare dreaming of joining their distinguished and frankly disruptive ranks, then head on over to patreon.com and pledge your precious pennies to the cause. Or don't. But if you don't, just know you'll never be one of the few, the formidable, and the founding fathers.